The silent threat, the silence music, was the worst part. Commander Elena Cross had served in the Terran Defense Fleet for 23 years, and she had learned that silence in a war room meant only one thing: people were dying and no one knew how to stop it. She stood at the Central Command Terminal of Earth's Strategic Defense Headquarters, her dark eyes scanning the holographic display that filled the cavernous chamber. Red markers blinked across the star map like drops of blood spreading through water. Each marker represented a human settlement under attack. Each blink meant another distress signal that had gone unanswered. The Vardine Dominion had struck without warning, without negotiation, without mercy. They had simply appeared at the edge of human space 3 weeks ago and begun their systematic destruction of everything humanity had built among the stars. The Vardine were not like the other alien species humanity had encountered during its expansion into the galaxy. Most civilizations had been cautious, some friendly, others distant but respectful. The Vardine were different. They were conquerors who had swept through 12 star systems in the past century, absorbing resources and erasing entire cultures from existence. Their technology was advanced, their numbers vast, and their ships moved through space like schools of metallic predators, hunting wounded prey. Intelligence reports suggested they saw humanity as a threat that needed to be eliminated before it could grow stronger. They had decided to strike first. Elena watched as another red marker appeared on the display. Colony Epsilon 7 had just gone dark. 5,000 people lived there, families who had spent generations building farms and cities on a world that had once been nothing but rock and ice. Now those people were either dead or fleeing into the black void of space, hoping someone would rescue them, but there was no one coming. Every ship humanity possessed was already engaged in desperate battles across a dozen different sectors. The Vardine had planned their invasion perfectly, hitting multiple targets simultaneously and stretching human forces beyond their breaking point. Lieutenant Marcus Webb approached from the communication station, his young face pale with exhaustion. He had not slept in 48 hours, and it showed in the dark circles under his eyes and the slight tremor in his hands. He carried a data tablet that he held out to Elena. With obvious reluctance, she took it and read the latest casualty reports. Numbers were staggering. In 3 weeks of fighting, humanity had lost 37 warships, 18 supply vessels, and 6 entire colonies. Thousands of military personnel were dead. Tens of thousands of civilians had been killed or displaced. The Vardine advance showed no signs of slowing. Elena set the tablet down carefully, as if it might shatter. She looked around the command center at the men and women working at their stations. They were exhausted, frightened, and struggling to maintain hope in the face of impossible odds. She could see it in their movements, hear it in their voices when they spoke. The Terran Defense Fleet had always prided itself on being ready for any threat, but nothing had prepared them for this. The Vardine outnumbered them 5 to 1. Their weapons punched through human shields like they were made of paper, and their tactics showed a level of coordination that suggested a hive mind. Intelligence directing their movements. A priority alert suddenly filled the main display, accompanied by a harsh alarm that made everyone in the command center freeze. Elena's heart sank as she read the message. The Vardin had reached New Terra, humanity's largest colonial world outside the Sol system, 2 million people called New Terra home. It was the jewel of human expansion, a thriving world with sprawling cities, advanced industry, and the best defensive installations humanity could build. If New Terra fell, the psychological impact would be devastating. People across human space would lose faith that they could be protected. The tactical display showed the situation in brutal detail. Varden battle fleet, consisting of 47 capital ships, had emerged from faster than light travel at the edge of the New Terra system. They were moving in perfect formation toward the planet, their weapons already charging for the assault. New Terra's defense fleet consisted of 12 warships, brave but hopelessly outmatched. The planetary shield generators were activating, but everyone in the command center knew those shields would not hold for long. Against sustained bombardment, Elena's second-in-command, Colonel David Reeves, materialized beside her. He was a veteran of the border wars, a man who had seen more combat than most people could imagine. His graying hair and weathered face gave him an air of authority that commanded instant respect. He looked at the display, showing New Terra's impending doom, and spoke quietly so only Elena could hear. "We are out of options, Commander. Every fleet we have is engaged. We cannot pull ships away from their current battles without losing those sectors too. New Terra is on its own." Elena knew he was right. The mathematics of war were cold and unforgiving. She could not save New Terra without sacrificing other colonies, but she also knew that losing New Terra would break something fundamental in humanity's spirit. People needed to believe they could fight back, that they had the power to protect their homes. If New Terra burned, that belief would burn with it. She turned away from the display and walked toward a sealed door at the far end of the command center. Colonel Reeves followed, confusion evident on his face. The door led to a small chamber that very few people knew existed. It was heavily shielded, protected by multiple layers of security, and contained only a single communication terminal. Elena placed her hand on the biometric scanner, waited for the retinal scan to complete, and then spoke her authorization code. The terminal came to life, displaying a simple prompt that asked for final confirmation. Elena hesitated for just a moment. What she was about to do would change everything. There would be no going back. Project Blackstar had been conceived 15 years ago by a group of scientists and military strategists who believed humanity needed an ultimate deterrent. They argued that conventional fleets would never be enough to guarantee security in a hostile galaxy. They proposed building a single ship that would be so powerful, so advanced, that its mere existence would prevent wars. The project was approved in secret, funded through classified budgets, and built in absolute secrecy at a hidden shipyard in the Kuiper Belt. Only a handful of people knew it existed. Even fewer knew its true capabilities. The ship had never been deployed. Its existence was meant to be a last resort, a weapon held in reserve for a crisis so severe that conventional forces could not handle it. Some argued it should never be used at all, that revealing its existence would trigger an arms race that would destabilize the entire galaxy. Others believed it was a waste of resources, a vanity project that would never justify its enormous cost. But now, with human colonies burning and millions of lives at stake. Alina knew the time had come. She entered the final authorization code and spoke clearly into the terminal. This is Commander Alina Cross, authorization. Omega-7, activate Project Blackstar. Full deployment to new terror system. Immediately, for a long moment nothing happened. Then a synthetic voice responded from the terminal, calm and precise. Authorization confirmed, USS. Blackstar is now online, all systems activating, estimated time to full operational status is 90 seconds. Alina felt her breath catch in her throat. After 15 years of secrecy, the Black Star was finally waking up, far beyond Pluto. In the frozen darkness of the Kuiper Belt, something massive stirred. The hidden shipyard had been carefully positioned among the asteroids and ice fragments that drifted in the outer reaches of the solar system. Camouflage systems and stealth fields had kept it invisible to sensors for over a decade. Now those systems deactivated, and the shipyard's massive doors began to open. What emerged from that hidden facility was unlike anything humanity had ever built. The USS Blackstar was enormous, dwarfing even the largest Vardine capital ships by a factor of 3. Its hull was made of layered armor composed of materials that had been synthesized in zero-gravity foundries, creating a surface that could withstand impacts that would vaporize normal ships. Design was sleek despite its size, with lines that suggested both elegance and predatory efficiency. The ship's power core was a revolutionary fusion reactor that generated more energy than a small sun. That power fed into systems that represented the cutting edge of human technology, advanced shielding that could absorb and redirect energy, weapons, point defense systems that could track and eliminate thousands of targets simultaneously, and weapons that had been designed not just to destroy enemy ships but to make a statement that humanity would not be conquered. The Black Star's engines ignited, producing a blue-white glow that illuminated the surrounding ice and rock. The ship began to move slowly at first, then with increasing speed as its massive bulk accelerated toward the inner system. Back in the command center, every screen suddenly displayed the same image. The USS Blackstar was transmitting its sensor data, allowing everyone to see what the secret ship looked like. Gasps and exclamations filled the room as people realized what they were seeing. Lieutenant Webb stared at the display with his mouth open. "My God," he whispered, "how did we build something like that without anyone knowing?" Colonel Reeves stood beside Alina, his expression a mixture of awe and concern. "That ship is going to change everything," he said quietly. "The galaxy will never be the same after today." Demonstration of power. The Vardan Armada moved through the new Terra system like a storm of metal and fire. 47 massive warships glided in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of the system's yellow sun. Each vessel bristled with weapons that had been designed over centuries of conquest. The Vardan had perfected the art of war, and their approach to new terror demonstrated that terrible expertise. They did not rush, they did not make mistakes, they simply advanced with the absolute confidence of predators who knew their prey had nowhere to run. On the bridge of the Vardine flagship, Eternal Dominance, Supreme Commander Thraxus observed the human colony whirled through his tactical display. His species was tall and angular, with metallic gray skin that seemed to shimmer in the low light of the command center. His eyes were large and multifaceted, giving him a field of vision that allowed him to process multiple data streams simultaneously. He had led the Vardine military through 7 successful campaigns of expansion, and he had learned to recognize when an enemy was broken. The humans were broken, their defense fleet was pathetically small, their orbital platforms were already showing stress fractures from preliminary bombardment, and their communications were filled with panic and desperation. It would be over within hours. Thraxus turned to his tactical officer, a younger Varden named Kellis, who had distinguished himself during the assault on Colony Epsilon 7. The planetary shields are holding at 63% capacity, Keelthris reported in the clicking harmonic language of their species. Human defense ships are attempting to form a defensive perimeter, but they lack the numbers to be effective. Estimated time until complete shield collapse is 4 hours and 17 minutes. Thraxus nodded his approval. Maintain current bombardment pattern. I want the humans to watch their shields fail slowly. Let them understand that resistance is meaningless. Far below on New Terra's surface, Governor Sarah Mitchell stood in the emergency command bunker beneath the capital city of New Haven. She was a civilian administrator, not a military commander, but the crisis had forced her to make decisions that would determine whether 2 million people lived or died. The bunker's walls shook with each impact from the Vardine bombardment. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the lights flickered intermittently. Her staff worked frantically at their stations, coordinating evacuation efforts and trying to maintain some semblance of order as panic spread through the cities above. The military liaison, Captain James Ortega, approached with his portable terminal, displaying the tactical situation. The defense fleet was fighting bravely, but Sarah could see they were being systematically destroyed. 3 ships had already been reduced to burning wreckage, and the remaining 9 were taking heavy damage. Governor, we need to begin full-scale evacuation, Ortega said, his voice tight with stress. Shields will not last much longer. If we wait, we will lose our window to get people off-world. Sarah felt her chest tighten. She had 2 million people to evacuate and only enough transport capacity for maybe 200,000. The mathematics were brutal and unforgiving. Who lives and who dies when you cannot save everyone? Before she could respond, every communication system in the bunker suddenly activated simultaneously. Priority transmission was coming through on all military and civilian channels. Sarah looked up at the main screen as it flickered to life, showing the seal of the Terran Defense Fleet. Then a voice she did not recognize spoke, calm and authoritative. This is Commander Alina, Cross of Earth Strategic Defense Headquarters. All personnel in the new terror system should be advised that reinforcements are arriving. Hold your positions. Help is coming, Captain. Ortega stared at the screen in disbelief. Reinforcements from where? Every fleet in human space is engaged. We confirmed that hours ago. Sarah wanted to believe, but she had learned long ago that hope without evidence was dangerous. She was about to order the evacuation to continue when the space above New Terra suddenly erupted with light. Every sensor in the system detected it simultaneously. A massive energy signature was emerging from faster than light travel, and it was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The signature was so powerful that it temporarily overloaded sensor arrays. Across the planet and throughout the Varden fleet, on the bridge of eternal dominance, alarms shrieked warnings that made Thraxus spin toward his tactical display. What is happening? He demanded. Keelthris was working frantically at his station, his multiple eyes wide with shock. Supreme Commander, we have an unidentified vessel entering the system. The energy readings are... He paused as if unable to believe his own instruments. The vessel is generating power equivalent to our entire fleet combined. That is impossible. The USS Blackstar emerged from the shimmer of faster-than-light travel like a leviathan rising from the depths of an ancient ocean. The ship was so large that it cast a shadow across New Terra's moon. Its hull reflected the system's sunlight in ways that made it seem almost alive, and the energy emanating from its power core created visible distortions in the space around it. For a moment, everyone in the system, human and Vardian alike, simply stared in stunned silence at the massive warship that had appeared from nowhere. In the New Terra Defense Fleet, Captain Lisa Hang commanded the destroyer. Valiant stand. Her ship had taken heavy damage, her crew was exhausted, and she had been preparing herself for the inevitability of death. Then the Black Star appeared, and Lisa found herself speechless. What in the name of... She began, but words failed her. Her tactical officer recovered first. Captain, I am reading that vessel as human designation USS Blackstar. It is broadcasting Terran Defense Fleet identification codes. Lisa felt hope ignite in her chest like a fire that had been given sudden oxygen. Get me a direct channel to that ship immediately. On the Blackstar's bridge, Commander Alina Cross sat in the captain's chair, surrounded by displays showing every aspect of the battlefield. She had made the journey from Earth aboard a high-speed courier that had docked with the Black Star just before it entered the system. She wanted to be here for this moment, to witness firsthand what humanity's secret weapon could do. The bridge was pristine and efficient, staffed by the best crew the Terran Defense Fleet could assemble. At the center of it all was Athena, the ship's artificial intelligence, whose calm, synthetic voice provided constant updates. Captain Hang of the Valiant Stand is requesting communication. Athena announced. Alina nodded. Put her through. Lisa Huang and LT Uncan GT's face appeared on the screen, and Alina could see the exhaustion and desperation in her eyes. Commander Cross, I do not know where you came from, but thank God you are here. We cannot hold much longer. Alina allowed herself a small smile. Captain Huang, pull your fleet back to a safe distance. The Black Star will handle the Vardian fleet. Lisa blinked in confusion. Commander, with respect, there are 47 enemy capital ships out there. Even a ship as large as yours cannot possibly... Alina interrupted, gently but firmly. Captain, I am giving you a direct order. Pull your fleet back. Now, the tone left no room for argument. Aboard Eternal Dominance, Supreme Commander Thraxus had recovered from his initial shock and was now analyzing the situation with cold calculation. One ship, no matter how large, could not possibly defeat his entire fleet. The humans were bluffing, trying to buy time. With intimidation, he would not fall for such transparent tactics. All vessels target the new human ship, he commanded. Concentrated fire on its forward Sections, we will cut it apart piece by piece, the Vardin fleet responded, immediately reorienting their weapons toward the Blackstar. Hundreds of particle beams and plasma cannons began charging simultaneously on the Black Star. Athena detected the enemy. Targeting systems locking on. Commander, the Vardin fleet is preparing to fire. Shall I activate defensive systems? Alina leaned forward in her chair. Negative, let them fire first. I want them to understand what they are facing. The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances, but no one questioned the order. They had trained for this moment, and they trusted their commanders. Judgment, the Vardin fleet fired as one, unleashing a barrage of destructive energy that could have vaporized a dozen normal warships. The space between the fleets lit up with beams of superheated plasma and streams of accelerated particles. The attack was overwhelming, devastating, and precisely coordinated. It struck the Black Star shields with a combined force of 47 capital ships. Firing simultaneously, the impact created a flash of light so bright that it temporarily blinded sensors across the system. When the light faded and sensors recalibrated, the Black Star remained exactly where it had been. Its shields had absorbed the entire attack. Without even flickering, the ship was completely undamaged. Silence filled the bridge of eternal dominance. Keelthris stared at his readouts as if they had betrayed him. Supreme Commander, our attack had no effect. Their shielding technology is beyond anything we have encountered. Thraxus felt something unfamiliar creeping into his consciousness. It was fear and emotion he had not experienced in decades of warfare. Reload all weapons, he ordered, his voice harsh. Fire again, maximum power. Alina watched the Vardin fleet desperately recharging their weapons and felt a cold satisfaction. They had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. Athena, she said calmly, activate the Helios cannon. Target the enemy flagship. Fire when ready. Black Star's primary weapon system came to life with a sound like distant thunder deep within the ship's core. The fusion reactor diverted massive amounts of energy into the cannons. Charging sequence, the weapon ran the entire length of the ship, a massive particle accelerator that could focus destructive energy with surgical precision. The Helios cannon fired and reality itself seemed to bend around the beam. A lance of pure white energy crossed the distance between the Black Star and eternal dominance in less than a second. There was no explosion, no dramatic burst of fire. The beam simply struck the Vardin flagship and erased it from existence. The ship's shields, armor, and hull vaporized instantly, leaving nothing behind but an expanding cloud of atomized particles. Supreme Commander Thraxus and his crew of 3,000 ceased to exist in the span of a single heartbeat. The remaining Vardin fleet froze in confusion and terror. Their Supreme Commander was gone. Their flagship was gone. The ship they had attacked without effect had just demonstrated the ability to destroy capital vessels with a single shot. Panic spread through their communications as individual commanders tried to understand what had just happened. Some called for immediate retreat. Others demanded they press the attack. The perfect coordination that had defined Vardin military operations for centuries dissolved into chaos. Alina did not give them time to recover. Athena, target the next 10 largest vessels. Fire at will. The Black Star Secondary weapons came online, a network of smaller but still devastating energy. Cannons that tracked targets with inhuman precision. 10 beams lanced out simultaneously, each one finding a different Vardan warship. 10 more vessels vanished in bursts of light that briefly illuminated the darkness of space. The remaining Vardan fleet broke formation and began a desperate retreat, their ships scrambling to activate faster than light drives and escape the monster that had appeared in their midst. On New Terra, Governor Mitchell watched the battle on screens throughout the command bunker. The bombardment had stopped. The Vardan were fleeing. Single human ship had turned the tide of the entire battle in less than 5 minutes. She heard cheering erupt throughout the bunker as her staff realized they were going to survive. Captain Ortega stood beside her, tears streaming down his face. "We did it," he whispered. "We actually did it." Blackstar pursued the fleeing Vardan vessels with relentless efficiency. Athena's targeting systems tracked each ship, calculating trajectories and eliminating them one by one before they could escape. The weapon systems fired with mechanical precision, each shot perfectly placed to ensure complete destruction. Elena watched the tactical display as the red markers representing enemy ships blinked out one after another. In less than 20 minutes, the entire Vardan invasion fleet had been destroyed. Not a single enemy vessel escaped to carry word of what had happened. When the last Vardan ship was destroyed, an eerie silence fell across the New Terra system. The human defense fleet slowly emerged from their defensive positions, their crews staring in awe at the massive warship that had saved them. Elena opened a channel to all human vessels and to New Terra surface. "This is Commander Elena Cross aboard the USS Blackstar. The immediate threat has been eliminated. New Terra is secure." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "Let this day be remembered. Humanity will defend its people. We will protect our worlds, and anyone who threatens us will learn what happens when they push us too far." Across human space, the message spread like wildfire. The Vardan Dominion had been stopped. Their invasion fleet had been destroyed. Humanity possessed a weapon that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. In every human colony, people gathered to watch footage of the Blackstar in action, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that they were not defenseless. The Terran defense fleet had shown that humanity could fight back, that they had the strength to stand against any threat. But Elena knew this was only the beginning. The Vardan would not forget this defeat. Other civilizations would learn of the Blackstar's existence and react in unpredictable ways. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity would need to navigate the consequences of revealing their ultimate weapon. She looked out the bridge viewport at New Terra, at the planet they had saved, and allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They had done what needed to be done. The rest would come in time. The USS Blackstar maintained its position in orbit around New Terra, a silent guardian watching over the world below. Its presence was a promise and a warning, a statement written in steel, an energy that echoed across the stars. Humanity had emerged as a power that could no longer be ignored or intimidated. The age of human expansion had entered a new chapter, and the galaxy would never be the